Hey everybody and welcome. Today is another wire working project, this time rings. As you can see, I've got several on at the moment, all different styles, and these are all quick and easy to make, and they are great things to add to an outfit. So let's get started and talk some materials. I need wire, of course. I've got gold and silver colored wire in an 18 gauge and some copper wire in a 16 gauge. They are very soft, flexible wires, which makes this much easier. And then I've also got 24 gauge wire in all of those colors as well for one of the types of the bead rings, and I'll explain more later. I've also got a whole bunch of pliers, like always, including wire cutters, needle nose pliers, and my nylon pliers. And I have mandrels, which is what I'm going to form the ring around. I've got my acrylic one and this stepped one. Like always, I've got my files, and this time I've also got a selection of bead reamers, because occasionally beads come with holes that are a little too small for my wire, so those are necessary. And then I've got all of my beads. I've got a selection of stone and semi-precious gemstone beads, and I do also have some glass beads, but they're all a little big for doing rings with, so I'm not going to be using them on this project. But smaller glass beads could be used just as easily as what I'm going to do. So what I am going to do is I am going to start with this style of ring. And this is a little looped style, which I think is really cute. And then I'm also going to show you the spiral style, which is similar. And these are done without beads. As you can see, they are easiest to do, as I said, with a soft wire. I'm going to start first with the spiral rings. So all I need for this is my wire and a mandrel to shape the ring around. I'm using my acrylic tube here, which is probably about a size 9.5 or 10 in American ring sizes. It fits my index finger pretty well, so that's what I'm basing it off of. So as you can see, I've done a double wrap, and then I'm just going to twist my end pieces, which are about 1.5 to 2 inches long. As you can see, I did not do the best job making sure they were even, but it's okay, it's not a big deal. So all I'm going to do is then just curl the ends into spirals. As I said, this is a super easy way to do it. I start the curl with my needle nose pliers, getting a very tight little eyelet at the end, and then I'm going to use a flat pair of pliers to just roll it up, basically. This method works for both the single and double spiral style. For the single spiral style, I just keep one of the legs much shorter, and all I do with that leg is I wrap it around the longer piece just to secure the shape of the ring itself, to make sure that it doesn't randomly get bigger or smaller as I wear it. I found images of both of these styles of ring on Pinterest, but you know, it's Pinterest. They're not properly attributed, so I don't want to include images here, just because I don't know where they're coming from, and it's not that I think they're wrong, it's that, you know, copyright. I don't want to get in trouble if I post an image that is not in the public domain. And some of these are really hard to track down, especially with rings, because they tend to be in reverse image searches. They just tend to come up with other rings that are similar but not quite the same. Next, I'm going to do the loopy style ring, and I'm actually going to use my mandrel for this so I can make a smaller size ring, because I don't want to make all of my rings the exact same size, then I can't wear them all. So I'm going to leave myself about 1 inch or so of space before I start making my loops, and because this is a ring and I only have so much space on the outside of my finger, I am only making 3 loops, I think an uneven number looks better personally, but you can do as many or as few as you want. And then I am going to wrap this 2 times, and then I'm going to carefully line up my next set of loops so that they are directly across from each other when the ring is finished. Because I'm working with the wire still attached to the rest of the spool, my loops aren't quite as even on the second set as they were on the first, but handmade things aren't always perfect, so I'm not really that worried about it. Now, the little extra that I left at the beginning and that I left when I cut off from the piece is just going to get wrapped around the band of the ring itself to secure the shape of the ring and keep the loops in place. And I'm cutting off my excess on the inside, and once I get those folded in nicely, I am going to file them a little bit with my metal files just to make sure I don't, scratch myself up when I'm wearing this ring, because that would be no fun. And that is pretty much it for this style of ring. And the really fun part, this was actually a really popular style for a lot of different types of jewelry. So I actually made myself some armbands out of a slightly heavier aluminum wire as well. And now we're going to work on the bead rings. And I've got 2 styles, which are sort of variations on each other. I'm actually going to switch to a slightly finer wire for this first one. This is a 20 gauge copper wire, and I'm using that slightly finer gauge because I can actually fit most of my beads onto the wire itself. For the ones that don't fit perfectly, that's what the bead reamer is for. It just helps me file open the hole in the center of the bead a little better. And what I'm again doing a double wrap with my wire and then giving myself a couple inches extra, and then I am just going to thread my bead straight onto the wire. This does take a little wiggling because curved wire and straight bead don't always get along, so I do have to do some adjusting and wiggling as I work on this. But what I've done is I have centered the bead in the middle of the wire, and then I am just taking my ends and kind of looping them around the bead to basically frame it, and just make it look like it's got a little something going on around it instead of just floating loose. And I am doing a full loop with each end of my wire. This bead does not want to stay where I want it to, so it took a little extra wiggling and working on it. But once I've got that where I like it, what I am going to do is just wrap the ends of my wire around the band of the ring, same way I did with the previous style ring, again to secure it and keep the shape of the ring where I want it to be. And as I said, this bead is very stubborn about staying where, or I should say, it did not want to stay where I wanted it to. That's one downside to using such a small, skinny bead. It was a little bit harder to keep it exactly where I wanted it to, but I made it work. And same as the previous ring, again, I am just wrapping my wire around the band, cutting off the ends, and then I will file them later, giving them a little squeeze to make sure they don't move either. The same technique also works with round beads. I'm going to make one more with some silver wire. This is back to my 18 gauge wire, and I'm going to use a round lapis lazuli bead for this one. Being a round bead honestly makes it a little bit easier because I can kind of wiggle the wire and make myself a little step of sorts, where the height of the bead sits above where the band of the ring goes otherwise. But same exact thing, wrapping the wire around my bead to frame it, and then wrapping my tail ends around the band of the ring to secure it. Now, what happens when you either have very small beads or beads that you cannot make the holes larger in? That is what I'm going to show you with this last technique. I am making first a ring base. I am doing a double round of wire with no extra. I'm honestly kind of making it look like a key ring or a split jump ring so that it is even the whole way around, and it's just got that little tiny swivel in the middle. And then what I'm going to do is I've got these very tiny little garnet beads, which I happen to like a lot. Garnet is probably my favorite. And what I'm going to do is use about a foot of my 24 gauge wire, and I am just going to use this wire to basically wrap my ring base with and hold my beads on. So I'm starting by wrapping my wire around the ring 4 times, I believe it was, close to but not directly next to where the split is, because I want to hide that split underneath the beads. But all I'm doing is sliding a bead on and then doing an extra wrap of my wire, and then I'm going to keep going and do a bead and then an extra wrap so that I have a little bit of space between each bead until I have as many as I like, and I'm happy with the look of how many beads I have on my ring. For this one I ended up using 7 of my little tiny garnet beads altogether. I want to say these were a 2mm round bead. It's been a while since I bought them now. This also works, as I said, if you have a larger bead of any sort but you cannot widen the hole. When I showed at the very beginning of the video, I had another ring with a lapis lazuli tube style bead, which I also did the same method for that ring, because at the time I did not have my bead reamers and I could not get that bead on anything heavier than a 24 gauge wire. So it does work for larger beads as well when they do not fit on a heavier gauge wire. And this is it for my tutorial here. I really hope you enjoyed it. I would love it if you do decide to make some rings of your own. Send me photos on Instagram. I would love to see them. And I hope you enjoyed watching this. If you want to see more stuff, please subscribe. Please like this video. I am not going to be posting a video at the beginning of August, but I will be participating in COSY, the CosTutorial Symposium, and I'm going to be doing a video on brocaded tablet weaving for that, and a video on hairnets for medieval wear. So, and I'm also going to be on a couple panels, one of which will be on this channel and the others will be on other channels. So I will post that info on my Instagram once we get closer to COSY. But I hope I will see you all again soon. And as I said, I hope you enjoyed this video and have fun. Bye. Embrace your inner jewelry hoarder.